Hey guys, and welcome back to Breadbox Racing in 4x4. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make a cheap and easy log manifold for a turbocharger for a Honda B series engine. Okay, so as I said, we're building a turbo manifold. Now this is for Braden's B18 Del Sol. Now, a couple things I got to get out of the way first because I don't want people jumping down my throat. This is not a SEMA car. We're not chasing big power. So I'm not overly concerned with having a super fancy manifold. It's a street car and it's getting a log manifold. Now, log manifolds are the cheapest way to build a turbo manifold. I've chosen to build it out of Schedule 40 pipe because it's what we could get in town and it's cheap. Generally, you probably want to use Schedule 10, but Schedule 40 should work just fine. There is a certain work order you have to follow with this. Got to cut out the flange first. I'm going to show you that. I used a plasma cutter for most of it. Then you got to fit your pipes, get your port spacing out. The easiest way to do that, I use the exhaust manifold gasket off of the engine to trace it onto the flange. That told me where my ports need to be, and got it so I could start getting the pipes lined up. And that's your next step. You got to get pipes lined up. Now, B series engines, as with a lot of engines out there, have oval exhaust ports, which is part of my reason for doing it this way. With weld fittings, these are cast steel, not cast iron. So you can actually bend these. So I stick them in the hydraulic press, I squished them a little bit, and got actually very close to the right port size. Close enough that I can just chamfer the flange to port match it. So we're going to cut to a time lapse. I'm going to show you cutting the flange and some of the footage of me dremeling out the ports. I'm not going to hit you with all of it. It's a lot, and it took a ton of time, and I got a lot of slivers. Wear more PPE, wear like a hoodie or something. So that's that. You've been warned. So I'm using a plasma cutter, but you can do this just as easily with cutoff wheels and a grinder. I had access to the plasma cutter, so I figured I'd use it because it's quicker and easier. It helps if you hook the ground up. The next thing we got to do, we got to oblong the ports on the second elbow and the second T, and then I can use these, the measurements off of these, to get my cuts. So to get an oval port on this round fitting, I'm just using the hydraulic press, and then I eyeball it, match it to the gasket. Okay, so now that we have the manifold to this stage, I can go, I've got everything close enough. I don't want to do the final grind on this yet, because I want to wait until I've welded the inside. Before I can weld the inside, I gotta weld the outside. Before I can weld the outside, I gotta bevel these sections of pipe so I can get good penetration on the pipe, otherwise it will just crack. And we don't want that. Alright guys, so we've got all of our joints nicely beveled, ready for welding, and as I predicted, it was a nightmare getting these ports to line back up. I would recommend, next time, don't hog these out to full size. Now, I'll get away with it this time because I did leave myself a little bit of a margin of error here. But it would be much easier for you guys in the future if you kind of get these close-ish, but not perfect. Weld it, and then worry about grinding these out. So, something I've learned the hard way, so you guys hopefully don't have to. So now we're going to weld this, and to weld this I've tacked it with MIG welding. But I think I'm going to use the TIG welder to actually weld this thing up, because I think I'm just about out of MIG gas. So I'm going to go get started on this, and we're going to take a time lapse of that so you can watch me suck at welding. So here I've taken a piece of 5" by 5" by 1/4" wall box tube, and I've threaded it and tapped it to match the B series flange. Now I've bolted the B series flange to it, and the reason for this is so that it restricts how much it warps while I weld everything. And I know it worked because when I was done, I put a machinist straight edge across, and I only had about 1 or 2 thousandths of an inch warp across the entire flange. Because notching tube without a tube notcher is very difficult, what I've done is in the drill press I drilled a 15/64 hole, which is just big enough to thread a 1/4" shanked carbide burr, a long one through, so that I can use the hole saw to do this. The carbide burr should be strong enough to guide it through without bending, as long as I'm careful. I tried doing this with drill bits on a test piece, and predictably the drill bits bent and broke. So I'm hoping that because this doesn't have the cutouts for it, that this is strong enough. So let's see. So this method actually wound up working really well. If you're going to do it, I highly recommend it. Alright, well that worked really well. Now I've got an elbow with a nice straight hole right through the middle. So, now that we've got this going on, I can cut it right down the middle. And that's going to make it easy to mate to the manifold, because the manifold should be 2" roughly 2 inches on its OD, which is what I've done. So I'm gonna get the grinder, cut this off, and be back with you in just a minute. So given that this manifold needs all the help it can get to flow, I'm chamfering the inside edges of these holes. This is to help the pulses merge and turn that corner. The more you can open up the inside radius, the easier it is for a pulse to turn. So here I'm just using a MIG welder. That's what these fittings were designed to be welded with. It'll be fine. And I was getting lazy, and I think I'd run out of TIG gas at this point. So a little bit more grinding here just to finish up that inside edge. Okay, so we got her welded up. Still need a little grinding there, but it's ready for me to top these holes so we can test fit the old turbocharger, and then we can fit it up to the car. My port matching wound up being actually not too bad. It won't take me more than like a minute or two to get that touched up so it's a nice perfect transition, which is good, because inlet conditions into a turbo are extremely important. This part aside, this hard 90 is not the best for flow, but I've done the best job I can to kind of fillet those inside edges to smooth that out as best I can. These manifolds are not made for making big power, but it's still going to make power. So anyways, I'm going to tap these holes. I got 3/8 exhaust studs, so I've drilled them out with 5/16 drill, and now they're ready to run a tap through, so I'm going to do that. All right. Don't know where my lapel mics went, but there it is. Now, a couple of things to note. My manifold actually had the turbo too close into the block. The intake here wouldn't have cleared the belt. Well, it cleared the belt housing, but you wouldn't have been able to get an elbow on it. So I had to take the compressor off, unbolt the clamp for the core suction, cut the take off, and clock the thing about 30 degrees to kind of angle the turbo out. And that brought the center line of the turbo shaft out. So that was one kind of trick I ran into. Of course, now that it's clocked, can't get the exhaust on it. So you win some, you lose some. But all in all, I prefer this solution. It's easy to cut the exhaust and add a bike cut to it. So that's how you make a manifold for a B series. All in, we spent 75, about 80 bucks on materials, plus, I don't know, 10 bucks in welding gas. So all in, you can build one for under 100 bucks, and that's Canadian. So that'd be like about 60 bucks US. And yeah, it won't flow enough to make 400, 500 horsepower. That's not what we're going for. If we try and make that kind of power, we're gonna break things. And he just wants a reliable daily. So we're probably only gonna chase maybe 8, 10 PSI, something like that. So we don't need a ton of flow. So that manifold will work just fine. So anyways, if you enjoyed this, like and comment. If you made it to the end, thank you. Yeah, I think I'm gonna go have a shower and take a load off. Oh, hey, my battery's done charging. Catch you guys later.